The Galactic Council had made their position abundantly clear. Predator species were not to be educated alongside civilized herbivores. It was a law as old as the Council itself, written in the blood of 1,000 conflicts, enforced by 1,000,000 years of evolutionary wisdom. Predators belonged in rehabilitation centers, not classrooms. Yet here stood Celine, human teacher of Orbital Academy Station 7, with 6 Carvathi cubs sitting cross-legged on her classroom floor, their razor-sharp claws retracted, their luminous yellow eyes fixed on the holographic display she'd conjured above her palm. "And this," Celine said softly, her voice carrying that peculiar warmth humans seem to radiate, "is what we call a nebula. Billions of stars being born in clouds of cosmic dust." Jairo, the largest of the cubs, leaned forward with such intensity that his spotted fur bristled. "Teacher Celine, do the stars, do they know they're being born?" Before she could answer, the classroom door exploded inward with a pneumatic hiss. Point 4 security officers stormed in, their gray carapaces gleaming under the fluorescent lights. They were Pellucid, a species that had perfected the art of bureaucratic enforcement over emotional intelligence. Their compound eyes swiveled toward the cubs with mechanical precision. "Violation Code 7 Alpha," the lead officer announced, his translator rendering his clicks into flat, emotionless standard. "Predator species detected in educational facility. Immediate removal required." The cubs scattered instantly, their training overriding their curiosity. They pressed themselves against the far wall, hackles raised, teeth bared in defensive snarls that echoed through the suddenly too small room. Jairo positioned himself in front of the smaller cubs, his adolescent frame trembling with barely contained aggression. "Officer, please." Celine stepped between the security team and her students, her hands raised in a placating gesture. "These children are registered students. They have every right. Humans do not understand galactic law." The officer interrupted, mandibles clicking with dismissal. "Predator cubs are not children. They are threats awaiting activation." 2 officers moved to flank her, electromagnetic restraints humming to life in their appendages. The cubs' snarls intensified, a primordial symphony of warning that spoke of millions of years of survival instinct. Jairo's haunches coiled, preparing to spring. Celine recognized that look. She'd seen it in cornered animals back on Earth, in soldiers about to make their last stand, in anything alive that had been pushed beyond reason into pure survival mode. "Stand down." The lead officer commanded the cubs, his voice amplified to painful volumes. "Submit to removal or face incapacitation protocols." Jairo lunged. He didn't make it 2 feet before his pack siblings joined him, a coordinated assault that would have made any military instructor proud. They moved as one organism, teeth, claws, fury incarnate. The officers raised their weapons. Celine raised her hand, not in surrender, not in aggression, just raised it, palm open, fingers spread, in that universal gesture that every species somehow understood on an instinctive level. "Stop." And impossibly, miraculously, the cubs froze mid-attack. Jairo hung in the air for a heartbeat, his claws inches from the lead officer's throat, before he dropped to the ground and retreated. The others followed, their snarls dying to uncertain whimpers. They didn't return to the wall. Instead, they positioned themselves behind Celine, peering around her legs like she was a shield made of flesh and inexplicable authority. The security officers stared, their translator units struggling to process what they'd witnessed. "How did you?" The lead officer began. Celine lowered her hand slowly, deliberately. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight that seemed too heavy for her small frame. "Officer, do you know what humans are?" "Deathworld predators," he responded automatically. "Apex species of Terra. Galactic Council members by special dispensation." "Do you know why we're predators?" She didn't wait for an answer. "We hunted, yes. But we also raised. We domesticated wolves into dogs. We befriended cats that could have eviscerated us. We taught, nurtured, and protected creatures that should have been our prey or our competition." She gestured to the cubs behind her. "This isn't magic, officer. This is what my species does. We see potential where others see threats." The lead officer's compound eyes flickered, an expression Celine had learned meant confusion. "The law states, the law is wrong." Silence crashed through the room like a physical force. "These cubs," Celine continued, her voice steady. Know more about quantum mechanics than most adult Pellucids. Jero has written poetry that made me cry. They're learning to channel their instincts into art, science, and philosophy. They're not threats waiting to activate. They're children waiting to become whoever they choose to be. She knelt down, and Jero immediately pressed against her side, his earlier aggression replaced by something that looked disturbingly like trust. You saw them attack, the officer said weakly. I saw them defend, Celine corrected. There's a difference. And they stopped when I asked them to. Not because I threatened them. Not because I'm stronger. But because they trust me. Because I've shown them that trust is stronger than fear. The security team exchanged glances, their certainty fracturing. I will note this in my report, the lead officer finally said, his translator conveying reluctance. But the council will review. Let them review. Celine interrupted, standing up. Behind her, all 6 cubs stood as well, forming a protective semicircle. Let them see the test scores. Let them see the artwork. Let them see that their ancient fears are costing the galaxy brilliance it can't afford to lose. The officers retreated slowly, their weapons lowering but not holstering. When the door sealed behind them, Jero looked up at Celine with those enormous yellow eyes. Teacher, will they come back? Celine smiled, that distinctly human expression that showed teeth but meant joy, and placed her hand on his shoulder. Probably, but we'll be ready. Now, who wants to learn about black holes? 6 clawed hands shot into the air, and in that moment, in that small classroom orbiting a distant star, the future shifted. Not with violence or conquest, but with a raised hand and the radical belief that anyone, could be taught to reach for the stars instead of throats. That, after all, was the most dangerous thing about humans. They believed in second chances for species that had never received first ones.